we got two pieces of news from the Transformers TCG, specifically the War for Cybertron Siege expansion. One piece is a new card that was revealed through their Facebook, and another one was a piece of news in regards to a recently banned card from the trading card game, which is good news and bad news in a lot of ways, depending on how you look at it. So first we'll talk about the new trading card that was revealed on their Twitter account and on their Facebook account. They announced that they showed us here Transformers War for Cybertron Private Trailbreaker. So looks like we got Trailbreaker here, and he's going to be getting a trading card. It is based off of specifically the Generations toy that we got a couple of years ago that was also based off of his IDW design. Specifically, I like to call it the Alex Milne design or the Casey Collar design, depending on who drew it at different times, because Spotlight Trailbreaker, or I think it was called Spotlight Trail Cutter at the time when they didn't have the trademark for his name. So this is pretty cool. We're getting, yet again, another classic 84 Generation 1 character to add to the mix. Now, the second piece of news, and this is the one that's a little more dramatic, I guess is the best way to put it, is that they recently announced Drew Nolasco, the global brand manager of the Transformers TCG, did this huge announcement on the Wizards of the Coast website about how one of the cards from the series is going to be banned from all tournament and pretty much competitive play. Obviously, in your own tabletop, I use the term kitchen table play. You could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But from anything from competitive or tournament play, this card is going to be 100% banned. Now, what is that card and why? So there is a card in the original run called Swap Parts. And that specific card is the key to all the problems. And they essentially what they said was, it's actually a combination of cards that caused this problem, but they play tested in all these different ways, and they found out that the big problem was specifically that card. Now, I'm going to explain what's going on here for people who know what how the TCG works. You'll understand what
So when you say a combination of cards, you mean a combo?
Yes, a combo.
Sorry.
So essentially, what's going on here is if your deck possesses the cards Swap Parts, I Still Function, Peace Through Tyranny, which are these are all action cards, and you have the character of Chromia in the field as your character card. You essentially, when you have Chromia in the field, specifically in robot mode, when you're using Swap Parts, I Still Function, and Peace Through Tyranny, you are able to create this infinite combo, and you could do this practically turn one. Imagine you pull your hand out, you got Chromia, and you got those three cards I just mentioned. It automatically puts you in this situation that you could do an infinite combo of drawing cards. Jeez. Now, you say to yourself, like, okay, well, how is that a big deal? You're just drawing cards. You're not really hurting your opponent. Here's the problem. Now there's another card that factors into this, and this is what's also going to be in your deck. There is a card called Plasma Burst, which all it does is it deals 2 damage to an enemy. Now, if you mill your deck infinitely for cards, sooner or later you're going to pick up these Plasma Bursts over and over and over, and you just absolutely decimate everything. And your opponent just doesn't have a chance. Now, again, they did play testing, and they were going like, okay, I'm trying to figure out, like, you know, what the problem is here. And they've come to the conclusion that if you take out Swap Parts out of this equation, none of this would work. As opposed to, say, like, because if you got rid of I Still Function, there still is problems because of the Swap Parts thing. Like, you could still do other stuff. You know what I mean? That's not really leads to an infinite combo, but still leads to an unfair advantage early in the game as of even turn one. Now, they actually found out that there is a way to counter all of this, but it's only if you own one specific character. Now, obviously, through licensing and trademarking, the character of Predacon Tantrum isn't called Tantrum anymore. He's called Torox. I don't know why. It sounds like Turok from from the old N64 game. But the character of Torox, he actually has an ability that says enemy character can't be repaired. Now, if you have, I'll just call them Tantrum just for like simplicity. If you have Tantrum in the battlefield in alt mode, essentially bull mode, swap parts doesn't work. But that's assuming that every person's going to be playing with that character.
Right.
So the only way you could prevent this combo is having this one Predacon that's a combiner on top of that.
Yeah,
so if
exactly.
if you're probably playing that Predacon, you probably have to play a Predaking deck.
Yeah, like you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't be playing a Predaking deck and not combine them and just keep them in bull mode. That seems a bit ridiculous.
That's just it. So essentially, the way this is that they're going to be banning swap parts to prevent this because they started noticing that this is becoming a big problem because all you have to do is essentially, like, again, it's usually, like, I'm someone who comes from the Magic the Gathering world. Usually infinite combo decks, sometimes they take 4 turns. Sometimes they take 3 turns. It's very rare that an infinite combo deck actually happens turn 1. Like, it's very rare that you draw your 7 cards in your hand and something like that becomes an issue. So this is something that's a problem, and they're trying to nab it in the butt now. I want to actually give like a Magic the Gathering equivalency of it for people who are familiar with, say, like Lightning Bolt, which was a classic Magic the Gathering poke card. It was a sorcery. It's going to be an instant. Yep. That just did instant, direct damage to your choice of target.
Yeah.
Imagine you had your direct damage red deck, and you just had, like, you draw your 7 cards, and all of a sudden you have all these cards that you need in your hand that could have you mill your deck until you have every direct damage thing you need to just destroy the player. Now, granted, in Magic, there's something called mana. You can't, you have to put it one per turn at a time. So it's something that you can't do initially anyway.
Yeah, it's not instant, like I put down all this mana and then blah, blah,
yeah.
blah, you can't
so
do that.
But the thing with Transformers, it doesn't really have that version of a mana pool. So
so you don't have kind of like a resource you have to.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. So as a result, that's how the manipulation happens here. And again, having Chromia, swap parts, I Still Function, and Peace Through Tyranny while padding your deck out with a bunch of Plasma Bursts pretty much nets you an easy win most of the time. So they're getting rid of this card. You could still play it, privately with friends and stuff, but if you come to a tournament and your deck possesses this one card, it will be banned and you will not be able to use it. So what kind of sucks about that is, at least from a value standpoint, usually when these kind of stuff gets discovered, usually a lot of times when infinite decks get discovered, those cards related to those infinite decks jack up in value.
Yeah, of
because
course.
So now swap parts is going to go down in value now that it's banned from tournaments. But still, it's something to take note of. I'm going to post images of each of these individual cards and try to have as high res as possible the explanation of what each card does. And I'm pretty sure if you read the descriptions, you'll see how one lends itself to the other, and then how it all just leads to the headache and the mess that it creates. But yeah, so that's just another thing to pay attention to. It's like I said at the beginning of this segment, it's good news and bad news, because I say that it's good news because it shows that Wizards is taking this game seriously. It shows that they're paying attention to what's going on in tournaments and in competitive play. So it shows that they're actually paying attention to what's going on. And I mean, if they're banning cards, it shows that they care about the future and what they plan to do with this. And we're right now in set number 3, the second expansion. So it shows that there's still good stuff ahead. But yeah, swap parts on the Knicks.